I would like to call first the first speaker, Nic Van der Ende.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a very large privilege for me to stand here and represent the PIOB at this enormous, organized Congress. And I have to take this one, I guess. Yes. Before I start my 10 minutes speech, which is a bit short because on this topic we can talk for days and days, but not today. I will tell you a bit about my personal experience in a few seconds. And that's a bit of a talk I had with a colleague of mine that and together we worked at Coopers & Lybrand years and years back before PwC was formed. And just recently I saw him. He's a bit older than I am, and he's about to retire. And I asked him, well, how are you and how are things? And he said, well, you know, Nick, I've been on a roller coaster for a number of years now. And you know, the most important thing at the end of the day is your reputation. It's the only asset on my personal balance sheet that's not there, but it's the main thing. And I said, well, I fully agree with you. And you must know that he went from Coopers & Lybrand to Deloitte, and he stayed a public accountant for a number of years. And I joined the Regulatory Society for 12 years ago now. And we said the same. Our reputation is at stake, and it's the most important asset that we have. So, in preparing my speech this morning, I thought, well, if reputation is so important, and it's important on a global level, let's have a look at several languages and try to find if it's indeed a global concept. Well, of course, in English, they would say a wounded reputation is seldom cured, and think about that. And if you look in other languages, I just took a few of them, you will find same sayings telling you more or less the same. Why is that relevant? Well, we are really talking here about an issue that has global impact. And it's really a complex issue, because when you try to define reputation, you will come up with different definitions depending on where you are in this world, on what continent, in what society, and what have you. So, from the PIOB, we try to have this helicopter view, looking at the world and the different cultures we have around the globe. And we think in terms of developing a code of ethics or another standard that will be touched upon by my colleagues later on around no-cly. You will recognize that it's really complex to come up with a standard with global spread, taking into account local cultures and the professional environments. And professional environments, well, not only the public accountants, but also the accountants in business or other groups that are a member of some member organization of IFAC. If we look further, then we see that there are some national guidelines. For instance, in the Netherlands, I come from the Netherlands, we have new guidelines on ethics, and those guidelines are somewhat built along the lines of blocks. We now have a minimum for all professional accountants in the Netherlands, which are more than 20,000, and that's quite a bit for such a small country, I guess. And we have on top of that ethics for, on the one hand side, public accountants, on the other hand side, internal accountants, and not so much for accountants in business. But the accountants in business should adhere to this, let's say, bare minimum standard issued in the Netherlands. But of course, in other parts of the world, that's different. And that makes the challenge even bigger, how to deal with that when you have this very complex task to come up with a code that not only should be adhered to, but also will be implemented effectively. Just a few words about the PIOB. Not much I can speak about that, also for days and days, but not today. The PIOB, most of you will know the PIOB, and for those who doesn't, just summing up a few of the bullets. I will not go through them, all of them. You can read it on the slide. But I would like to emphasize especially that we are very interested in the work of the standard setting bodies, and not only looking at due process. Of course, due process is very important to arrive at high quality standards, but we as a PIOB board, 10 members by the way, we are very interested in discussions around what are your projects you are starting up for the upcoming years, and are that projects that reflect the public interest. And what is the public interest? We don't have a definition for that, but we look at, from this helicopter, we look at parties around the globe, especially from regulatory side, or from the audit firm side, or from politician side, and try to come up with, let's say, a broad understanding of issues that are important for them. And then we try to figure out for ourselves, okay, what can we do to help the standard setting boards in coming up with a very effective standards. Around ethics, ethics next to the auditing standards themselves and the education standards are really important standards for the PIOB. And we engage with the ISBA and with its very important advisory group, and of course with members of IFAC leadership to discuss these issues in an open way and in a constructive way. Another thing I would like to mention here is at the bottom side of this slide, just in September we organized a workshop in New York, and we had an open discussion with CAG members and with IFAC members and the like. And that was really, really helpful in trying to get a better view of the recent topics that we as a PIOB can address and convey to the standard setting boards, and we hope that we will proceed with these workshops in due course. Then turning to ethical standards and how we look at it. Well, we are part of a chain, so to speak. We are on the standard setting side, but of course, as you all know, basically what's really relevant is how do you behave as a professional accountant. So adoption, implementation and execution, and of course evaluation of your behavior is very important, and it's not a simple thing to do. If I would just mention a few dilemmas that we envisage in that sense, well, what common basic ethical values are there around the globe? And we are fully aware of the differences in a number of jurisdictions or societies, or what name you can give it. And that's not easy to codify these basic elements in a code. If I take a parallel to the accounting standard setting processes, well, some of you may know that right now a main topic around the world is IFRS 9 around financial instruments. Another one for the insurance sector is IFRS 4. If we compare those two, then IFRS 4 is much difficult. It's more difficult to come up with a standard there. And you know why? The solvency regimes and practices around the globe differ very, very much, more than on the side of the financial instruments. So the ISB has taken, I guess, 5 or 6 years to come up with the new standard IFRS 9, and that seems to be rather fast. IFRS 4 has not been issued yet, and we are questioning whether it will be. Is that strange? No. If you look at the ethical differences around the globe, you see a number of differences, and how to codify them in a standard, that's a real challenge. Another one is around implementation is how do you reach out to jurisdictions, societies, authorities that are outside our remit of IFAC, outside the remit of PIOB. That's another difficult situation. And well, I just met Jim again, and you are the chair of the CAP, the Compliance Advisory Panel, and well, you and I know that's quite difficult to reach out to authorities around the globe when it's not really in your remit. So that's another illustration of the challenges we all face. Here it says for discussion. Well, please not now, because my time is very limited, but I intend to express our openness as a PIOB to have discussions later on and in other fora with you around elements that are presented here. And the first one, I guess, is without discussion. We should be very proud of what we have on the auditing standard setting side, including the ethics part of it. If you look at other professions around the globe, well, I guess they could be jealous of us. So let's be proud of that. But at the same vein, are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. There's room for improvement, and especially then, I'm turning to the other bullets. We would like to have a discussion around how to engage with other parties involved to make this chain as strong as it can get. And there are some ideas here that I will not explore right now, because it will take me too much time, and I'm looking for Ken. Where's Ken? How much time do I have? Right. I thought so. So I will not go into these elements right now, but you can see on the screen, and I think I will conclude with expressing again our openness to all of you as you are here gathered to discuss these dilemmas and these expectations and what have you. I guess that's the last one. So thank you for your attention, and giving it back to Bob.